Welcome back to Charming Data, everybody. In this tutorial, we are going to create this beautiful dashboard together, and we're going to do it using Dash Bootstrap Card component. The card component allows us to create these beautiful type design for our web apps or our dashboards that look highly professional. So as you can see here, we're going to create 3 different cards. The card on the left is going to have an image, a text, and a drop-down that influences the card on the right that has a graph inside of it, bubbles and hover. And in the middle, we're going to create the middle card as well that has text and also a menu list of different questions that we put in there. So all that is with the Dash Bootstrap Card component. You can go inside here. This is a URL inside. Open the description below the video. You'll see different links and the code so you can follow along. And just click on components and go into card. It'll bring up this main page and you'll see many of the things that I'm going to go over are inside here, and this gives an additional explanation in case you have any questions. But I like to share my code and the documentation with my users so they can actually read more after the tutorial and learn more on your own. But I'm going to try and explain, do my best to explain to you how to create this beautiful Dash app. All right, so the first thing you want to do is download the code and import these libraries, assuming you have them installed. If you don't have them installed, just open your terminal inside Spider or Pycharm or whatever Python IDE you use, and just do wherever this project is, just go pip and go into that folder and just do pip install dash. You're also going to need pip install Plotly Express. And the last thing is you're going to need is pip install Dash Bootstrap components like this right here. But just make sure that you have, it's not underscore, it's supposed to be hyphen in both cases. So once you have all that installed, you're ready to go. It will take about 5 minutes and you can import these libraries. All right, so import these libraries. And we're going to use the data set that's built inside Plotly Express. We're going to use the Gapminder data set. And we're going to just call it df, a data frame. And then we're going to start our app. And to start the app, we do this. We're going to use an external style sheet, DBC themes, the Dash Bootstrap component themes, dot bootstrap. So we're going to use the Bootstrap theme. The Bootstrap theme can be found in this website. This is the basic. You'll see basic default Bootstrap theme, and it has all these colors and all these buttons and all these cards down below. If you want to change the theme, just go into that same website and see what the options are. Let's go all the way up and see what other themes you have. You have Darkly, Litera. If you want a solar theme, all you have to do is go in here, make sure they're capitalized, put solar, save it. And you will see as the app uploads, refreshes, that now it has a solar theme to it with a different color and slightly different shapes to the layout of the cards, to the outline of the cards. I go into much more about the themes and how to set up the themes and how to align the columns and rows on my last week's video. Just click on the video above if you want to see an introduction to Dash Bootstrap. So for now, let's stick to Bootstrap theme. And now we're going to create the 3 main cards. The card main is the one on the left. In the middle is going to be the question card, and then the card graph is going to be on the very right. And then I'm going to put everything inside the layout. So instead of putting all this inside the layout, I'm just going to create these objects and then just put them right here inside the layout. All right, so let's do that first. Let's create the cards one by one. So let me explain this code to you so you understand what we're doing here. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to create the DBC card with the image on the very left. All right, so it starts here and it closes right here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use the card image component, which is actually part of the card component. You can read all about it inside the card component right here. Card, go all the way down and you will see card image, the key arguments that you can use for the card image. We're using some of these key arguments. We're going to say we're going to bring in the image, and the image is ballofsun.jpg, and it exists inside the assets folder. Just to give you a better understanding of what that means, all of this code is called Bootstrap Card. Is inside this folder, and I create another assets folder, and inside of the assets folder I have the ball of sun JPG. So that's what you need to do. Make sure you spell your folder correctly, assets, and then you put this line of code so you can actually, so the app can read the JPG image into the app itself, into the card. Then you put top true and bottom false because you want the image to be on top of the body of the card, like this, on top and not on the bottom. Or if you want on the bottom, just put this true and just put this false. You don't necessarily need both of them on the code, but I just put this here to show you for tutorial purposes. Make sure that not both of them are true because it's going to confuse the code. It doesn't make sense. You can't have it both on top or bottom, I don't think. For common sense reasons, just use true or false for one of them. Then the title is what the user is going to see if they hover on the image. So you see image by Kevin Dinkle, that is his image that I downloaded for free that he gave me from the web. And the next thing is alternative, I think it means. This is the string that the user will see if the image is broken or they cannot see the image on their device. They will see this sentence. All right, so we're done with the card image, which is inside the card. And now we're going to go inside the card body. So the dbc.card body is where we're going to put all our text and our dropdowns. So the first thing inside the children of the card body is going to be just an html.h4 component. Where do I get this from? HTML.h4 is right here, HTML. It's a dash HTML component. It's not Bootstrap. It's a dash HTML component, which is right here, going to the link below the video. Dash is the main platform, and it has core components, and it has HTML components. And you have all these components, div and H4, H6. I'm going to use, where is it, the H4? I'm going to use H4 and H6, which I think is just different sizes of font. So I'm going to use HTML.h4. This is the text I'm going to put there. And Dash Bootstrap recommends that you give it a class name for the title. So if it's going to be a title, then just give it card. You have to spell this correctly, card hyphen title. This is taken from the Bootstrap CSS document. And this will give it a nice design. So you see how we have learn Dash with charming data, and the class name is card title because it's the title. If you're going to do a subtitle, like I have here, lesson 1, right here, lesson 1 is a subtitle. Just make sure that you give it a class name subtitle. You don't have to, but it looks a bit better, and the spacing is a little bit better. And the last thing, the text, the main text under the subtitle, is going to be the class name card text, and then whatever text you want in here. I chose to do html.p, but you can do h4 or anything you want. This is the default size of HTML.p. This is a default size text and maybe the font. So play around with it. If you want to use different HTML components, just go into the dash HTML and see if you can use different H's or different components here for the text. Okay, so we have the main body. We have the text underneath the card text right here. Underneath this, we're going to put a drop down. The drop down belongs to DCC, Dash Core Components. It doesn't belong to Dash Bootstrap. Dash Bootstrap does have a drop down. Okay, if you see inside their website, Dash Bootstrap does have a drop-down menu, but we're not going to use that one because it's a lot easier to combine with graphs if you use the Dash Core Component drop-down that comes from the Dash website. Okay, so we're going to use a Dash Core Component drop-down, and there's different keyword arguments inside there. Briefly, this ID is the ID we're going to use down below right here in the callback to connect the graph data, the data between the graph and the dropdown. And then we have the options. These are the options. We're taking the year column inside the data frame, and we're gonna give those year as options inside the dropdown. So you see all of this are the options. And then we're going to have the style. The color is going to be black for the options inside the dropdown. You see the color is black. And the clearable false, so you cannot clear it. You're always going to have a year in there. You cannot exit. And the value is going to be 2007. So automatically, if a user loads your app, it's going to fall on 2007. You don't have to have a drop down. If you don't want to drop down, just another example of a component you could put under the text maybe is a button. This is a Dash Bootstrap component button. So if you save this and it load it again, you'll see that instead of the drop down, we have a button. Obviously, it's not working because in my app, I'm connecting the graph to the drop down, so you'll have to change it. But if you want a button, you can choose a button. Another last example, maybe you don't want a button. Maybe you want a Dash Bootstrap component called Card Link, where you can put a link inside, and instead of a button and instead of a drop down. And if you refresh, now you see that you have a link, so you can take the user to anywhere you want to take them if they click on that link. Just make sure that if you use a card link, that you use this value, you put underscore blank in target, because this will allow the user to, this will open another tab when clicking on the link. If you don't have that and you click on it, it will take you to the new website instead of this app. So I would recommend using the target underscore blank. All right, so we're not going to use a link here. Here we're going to use the Dash core component dropdown, and then I close the main children of the card, and outside, before I finalize it, I'm going to use these parameters. Very important to know. It gives you a lot more flexibility in your layout. Color, I'm going to choose a certain color. I'm going to choose dark. Where do I choose these colors from? This is from that website I showed you, bootstrap.com, which is right here. Bootswatch, and you can go all the way down because you're in the default theme, which is the basic Bootstrap theme. And if you go all the way down, you'll see cards. And cards, you'll see that if I choose the dark color, this is the color that you get, and that's why you get this dark color right here, same color. If I chose light, I will get this color, or if I chose info, I will get this bluish color. But I chose dark for that one. You can choose any other color you want. And then inverse true just means the black, or choose the color black or white for the text. Because my background is dark, it doesn't make sense for the text to be dark. So I'll put inverse true, and that will make the text white. And then in the outline, this is a very cool component. If you do true, I don't think you need this if you do the outline, but if you do true, it will just give you the borders of the card and nothing inside the card. So it will give you the color, and it will show you, the user, that there is a card here, but it won't give you the color inside the card. So it's also a cleaner kind of design for your Dash app. There is text in here, but the text is white because we put inverse true. Just put false, and you'll see the text come up as black. All right. So we did the outline. We did the first card. So we're done with the first card on the left. Let's go to the second card, the question card. So we're dbc.card. We're going to open it. We're going to open the children. And here we're going to only put a dbc card body. We're going to do the same thing like we did before. We're going to put the first part is going to be the card title. It's going to be the, let's see here, the card title, question 1. So we're going to put question 1. The second one is going to be just text. So here we're not using a card subtitle like we did here. Where is it? Card start title. Here we're just going to go straight into the text, and we're going to put this text in there. And then which is right here. And then we're going to use this menu list. It just looks better. You don't have to use this. You can just put another HTML.p, and then maybe the text can be A, and then the question, and blah, 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 blah. But it looks better, in my opinion, if we use DBC list group. So the DBC list group is just another component inside the Dash Bootstrap component. You can see right here, go to Bootstrap component, DBC list group, click on this, and you'll see all the different ways you can do a list group. And so inside the list group, you have children, and then you just do dbc.listGroupItem, and then you just mention the items. That's all you have to do. Put flush true, and then this is how it looks like. All right, kind of cool. You got a white background and a black text inside the list group for each item. All right, these are not clickable. It's just an item. And outside, I'm going to put the color warning. This is the color of the DBC card. So the color warning is, you guessed it, it is orange. And how do we know that? You go into the Bootswatch URL, you go all the way down to the cards, and you'll see warning is this orange color. So this is what we have here as an orange color. All right, let's do our last card, our card to the very right, the graph. Let's see how the graph looks like. This is the last card graph. Here I'm going to do DBC card because we need to open the card method. And then instead of doing card body, if you inside the card, everything you have inside the card is going to be inside the card body. Like here, all we have is just DCC graph, not like here. Here we have card body, and outside the body we have an image. So not everything is inside the card body, so you can't do this. If everything is going to be inside the card body, you don't have to say card body. You can just say body equals true. So it's a quicker way of writing code. So we'll put DCC graph is the graph from Dash Core Components from this website right here. Remember the HTML Dash Core Components, the graph. Where's the graph right here? We're going to use, because Dash Bootstrap does not have a graph, so we're going to put this graph in there, body true, and then the color is going to be secondary, which gives it this grayish color. All right. Now, for now, if you stop your code here, there's no connection between the dropdown and the graph. So it's only an empty graph and an empty dropdown. Later below, we're going to connect them. So we created our 3 cards. And now we're just going to put everything inside the layout. Okay. So we're going to create a div, and inside this div, right here, we're going to create our layout like this. We're going to use DBC row and DBC column. I'll show you a little bit of this, but I go in depth about the row and the column in my first video. You can click here above again. My first video on Dash Bootstrap talks all about the layout and how to use row and column, so feel free to go there. But if you don't want to see it or you don't have the time, then I'll explain this in 1 minute. Inside the row, I'm going to have inside the children of the row, I'm going to have 3 columns, DBC columns. The first column is going to be the main one. The second is going to be the question card. And then the third card is going to be the graph. So it's going to be from left, middle, and right. And I'm going to give it width. So I'm going to say that this first card is going to have a width of 3 columns, so probably up until here. The second card is going to have another width of 3 columns, so an even width. And then the last card is going to have a width of 5 columns. So what you see, this is a little bit bigger. Imagine your web page, no matter the size, this size or this size, is divided into 12 columns. All right, so you always want to make sure that the width does not surpass 12 columns. So here I have 3 columns, 3 columns, and 5. That equals 11. And the last column, that is an empty space, I'm just going to do justify around, which is going to create this automatic space between between the cards, so it looks kind of neat. All right, it looks like this. You see, there's some space here, space here. It does that with the last column that is empty, because 12 minus 11 is 1 column, and it does justify around. You can do other things. You can do justify start or center or end, and it'll just give it a different layout for the remaining column that you have left. Okay, you don't have to use this. Another way, all these hashtags are different ways to create create the design or the layout of your app. This DBC card group, if you do not want to learn all about rows or columns and the width and the size and all that, you can just do an automatic like default layout. If you do card group and just put the 3 different cards in there inside the list, and this will create an even sized, even width, and even height to each one of your cards on the app, on your web app. If you don't want to use card group and you want to use card deck, by the way, all of these are inside the documentation here. Remember the card, you'll see all the way at the bottom, go into card body, card header, and regular card columns, and card group. So you can read all about them here. But it's fairly simple. You just put the cards inside your the list of the card deck, and you'll see that now this is exactly like card group, but with even height and even width, but there's gutters, there's space in between them. So it's another nice default way to create your app. And the last way to do it is card column that I'm going to show you. Card column component allows you to create, I added on purpose more cards here. I just duplicated card questions several times just on purpose, as if you have like 7 different or 6 different cards, and it's going to create this kind of style for your cards. So you see it's like it's called a masonry style. This masonry style has a very nice example here. Go above. You see this is a masonry style. So it'll by default try to arrange your cards in a way that they all kind of line up in a masonry style. So again, it doesn't give you, it's a default design. So if you want more control over the rows and the columns and the width and where you want each card, then just look at my video above. I'll read more about it in the documentation and use DBC row and DBC column to place your cards exactly where you want them. All right, so we went over all the cards and all the layout and the body and how to, in order to create this kind of web app. Why is it not loading? Let me see. Okay, now it should load. So we created all of this. If you want to learn a little bit about how to connect the drop-down and the graph, it's right this section right here. Okay, because now anything above this, all this is just the layout. If you want to connect the data, you have to use an app callback decorator. I can explain this in 1 minute, but if you really want to learn more about this, go into my first video that I ever created, I think. It's on the pie chart. It will go into great detail of how we're using the callback decorator and the callback function in order to connect drop-down data with a graph, pie chart or bubble chart or a scatter plot. But briefly, if you want to connect them, all you have to do is inside the input, you're gonna take the value of the dropdown, because this is the ID, user choice. Remember dropdown ID where we had above, user choice is the dropdown ID. So you're gonna take the value. It's 2007. But it could be anything the user chooses. We're going to take the value and do something with the value inside the function. Here we're going to create a scatter bubble chart, and then we're going to spit out this bubble chart into the figure of the my bar. My bar is you probably guessed it, my bar is the ID of my graph. So it's going to spit into my graph, is going to spit into here the figure. So it's going to be like this, right? That is exactly what it's going to do. As a result of the returning, what you return in this function. So this is how the callback decorator works. Again, if you want to learn more about it, just go into my video above to learn a little bit more about it. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed. Dash Bootstrap gives you a lot of flexibility and power to design your app. You can even, with a few lines of JavaScript code, you can create this code where you're moving cards around, and the user can move these cards around and choose how they want to have the layout on their computer. But this is something that we're not focusing on right now. Today, we just learned how to do this. Keep practicing. Don't give up, and always remember we're better together. So help each other out and be there for other people that need help as well. I'll see you in my next tutorial. Goodbye.